This is an enemies to lovers book. I'm literally in the grave talking about this book still, so I'd like wave as I'm walking by and they'd be like, oh my gosh, hi! That's what I feel. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Bookmas Day 13? I think this one's gonna be 13. Basically, you guys have to buckle in for today's video, okay? Because I'm gonna be going through every single 5-star read I have ever rated 5 stars. Talk a little bit about them, if I actually still like them, because I feel like a lot of them I actually like rated 5 stars years and years and years ago before I actually learned what good books are. And I'm just gonna go through them with you guys. I feel like this is one of those like book recommendation type of videos because obviously these are all books that I've rated 5 stars. So these are gonna be good, okay? I wanna start off with all of the romance books that I rated 5 stars because these are all of the romance books that I rated 5 stars. There is a lot, okay? When I first started reading books in general, I started off with romance books, like silly little rom-coms, because I feel like that was the only thing that would keep my attention and keep me interested in books. Obviously, when I started off reading, I wasn't going to start with like heavy fantasy books or even like deep quote type of books because those it just wasn't my vibe at the time. And here you go, let's start with romance books. First book on the list is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I rated this book a 5 stars, I think like maybe 2 years ago now. I don't fully remember, but I know it was a long time ago, and this was one of the first romance books that I read. Do I actually need to say this? I feel like this is a horrible way to start off the video, but I think this book is now gonna be maybe a 3.5 stars. In hindsight. Okay, I hate to be the one to say it, I don't even think it's a 4-star read. I don't really think my book taste has changed that drastically much, but when I read this book, I was very much so on like book talk, okay? Like that was my thing. I love book talk, and when book talk was raving about a book, I was like, oh, it has to be good. I remember bits and pieces from this book, and I remember these two people like meeting because she lied to her friend about having a boyfriend. And then to prove that she had a boyfriend to her friend, she's like, oh, I'm gonna kiss the first guy I see. And that's so weird. That is so weird that I can't, like every time I think about it, I actually like, I get like out of body experience. That is a horrible way to start this video. I just don't think this is a 5-star read for me anymore. I don't even think it's a 4-star read, to be completely honest with you guys. Next up we have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and honestly I think that this book is a 4-star book now. Once again, I read this a while ago and I loved it so much when I read it. I just don't think that it had like the depth that I necessarily wanted. Back then, I didn't care about books having depth. I just wanted it to be cute and happy and fun. This is what that book was. So if you're looking for like a cute and happy fun book, this is the book for you. But if you're looking for like characters with a little bit more depth, I don't think this is the one for you. Also so weird, but once again, our main character's name is Olive. I don't remember the guy's name. Olive and Ethan, those are the people in this book. It follows Olive and Ethan, and they end up going on a honeymoon together because Olive's sister was meant to go on a honeymoon for like obviously her wedding, like she just got married. Everybody at the wedding gets sick except for Olive and Ethan, so then her sister just gives them the honeymoon. It's very fun because Olive and Ethan don't like each other at all. Like in the beginning of the whole trip, they're kind of just like really like hate each other, but I don't know, I feel like my brain chemistry changed a lot throughout the past few years about like especially reading, and I'm not a big fan of enemies to lovers books anymore, so I'm just gonna give this book a 4 stars. Now I don't think it's a 5-star read in hindsight. It was one of those books that got me into reading, but that's all it did for me. Now we are moving on to better things, okay? Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I recently read this book. This is actually the last book that I read. Oh my god, it is so good. Once again, this is an enemies to lovers book. Like, yes, I know, I just said I hate enemies to lovers books, and my brain chemistry's rewired. It isn't for this book, okay? This book is the exception to the enemies to lovers because even though it's enemies to lovers, it's not really, because he doesn't hate her at all. She just doesn't like completely get along with him. It's kind of just like banter in the way of like they get on each other's nerves, but like in a good way. I swear, it's so cute, it's so adorable. I love this. I also am not the biggest fan of small town romances, and this is a small town romance, so for this to exceed all of my expectations, it'd be a 5-star read when it has 2, actually 3 of my least favorite tropes. It has enemies to lovers, small town romance, and brother's best friend like trope in this. I don't like any of those tropes. Like, I would rather be run over by a semi-truck before reading any of those tropes, but honestly, this book did it so well that I didn't mind it at all. This book follows Ford and Rosie, and basically Rosie ends up coming back to her small town that she grew up in because something happened, like, back where she lived before. So she ends up moving home. She wants the comfort of her family and friends. Ford is her brother's best friend, but I don't like classifying it that way because he kind of just like grew up around the family. He's kind of the whole like family's friend. Like, I underlined so many different things from this book. I underlined literally so many things from this book. It's actually insane. So definitely a 5-star read. I feel like it's going to stay that way forever. I don't think my brain chemistry is ever going to rewire for this book. So 5-star read. Guys, I think you guys know what book was going to appear at some point in this video. It just so happens that it's the 4th book. I'm so surprised I didn't talk about this book first. It was lost in the stack. Everybody please hold. Let me introduce you guys to The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Honestly, I don't think I'm introducing this to anyone who has ever been on my channel, even like if you've watched a singular video from my channel. I don't think this would be an introduction to this book because I talk about this book like it's my last dying breath. If I was on my deathbed and someone said like any final words or thoughts, I think that I would talk about this book genuinely. Basically, this whole book is following our main character, Clementine, and after her aunt's recent passing, she's dealing with the grief of all that, and now she has to clean out her aunt's apartment. The funny thing about her aunt's apartment, though, is that, like, you can walk in the door, and you can either be, like, 7 years in the future, 7 years in the past, or it can just be, like, the current moment that you're living in right now. But it's kind of like a magical realism-esque book, and I normally don't like that, but I loved it so much in this book that it actually might have changed my life. I think the way this book talks about grief is what like really struck a chord with me. Every single quote about grief was just so powerful in every single sense of the word. The way that I saw myself in Clementine but also saw myself in Clementine's aunt was the most insane thing ever. I love this book so much. I literally treasure this. I want every single person that I know to read this book. I think I've talked about this book to almost every single person that I know. Obviously, this book is always going to stay at a 5 stars for me. I don't think that that would ever change. Like, a quote from this book is literally the background on my phone. Like, that's how much I love this book. Oh my god, it's so good. Moving on, we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Now, this book genuinely I think is also going to be staying at a 5 stars. I reread this book for the 2nd time this year, and I think like honestly, the reread helped me realize that it was a 5 stars. The first time I read this book, it was only a 4 stars, I believe. Now it's a 5 stars, and I think it's going to stay that way literally forever. I also have another copy of Yours Truly that I'll pull out. Look at how many things I have annotated. Honestly, I feel like this being a romance book, I should have connected to the romance more, but like what took the bigger seat for me throughout this entire book was Jacob's struggle with his anxiety. I feel like I related to him on so many deeper levels. Every single thing that he thought, every single thing that he felt about his anxiety, I was like, oh, so you're like reading my mind. Like, when did I get a brain scan that I didn't know about? And then Abby Jimenez took that and was like, oh, I'm gonna write this into Jacob's character. When did that happen and I didn't know? I just feel like this book is genuinely so good for anybody to read if you struggle with anxiety, because it'll just make you feel so seen. And also at its core, it's a very cute romance book between our main characters, Brianna and Jacob. Oh my gosh, guys, we're getting banger after banger after banger, because the next one, Happy Place by Emily Henry. I also read this book this year. I genuinely think that this is gonna be a 5-star read forever and ever. I feel like the way that this book touched on friendships is so perfect. Like, obviously, once again, to its core, it is a romance book also. I don't know, I feel like it like spoke more volumes about like friendships and like relationships just in general, not just romantic relationships. Basically, this is a second chance romance between Harriet and Wynne. Is that their name? Got it right. Got it right first try. That's how you know I love this couple. I feel like I forget characters' names a lot, so like me remembering this first try, yeah, I love this book, guys. Basically, every year this friend group goes to this like little house and they all spend, I believe it's like a week or 2 there, and they all hang out because they never really get to see each other anymore. Obviously, their lives are on like total complete different paths, so they all meet up for like a week every year to go, you know, hang out. And basically they're all college friends, but Harriet and Wynne, they like dated and they were actually engaged at one point. They ended up breaking up because it is a second chance romance book. Basically, they have to pretend to still be together in order to like save their friendships with people. They feel as though like friends won't get along with them or will be awkward towards them if they know that they broke up. I actually could die with this book in my arms. I love it so much. Up next is 2 more Emily Henry books. Okay, I'm gonna speed run through these because I feel like you've heard about Emily Henry before and I don't want to bore you guys. I feel like everyone knows about Beach Read, but if you don't know about Beach Read, basically it's following 2 different writers. You're following Gus and January, and basically they're described throughout this whole book as like polar opposites. January basically writes these cute, happy, fun romance books, and Gus writes kind of like more darker, like just gothic, like not really happy, fun romance books. And basically they're both staying at these like beach houses that like they're neighbors. They're both dealing with writer's block, so they decided to like strike up a plan where Gus is gonna write like happy, fun romance books, and January is gonna take him to go to a place that would kind of spark that creativity to write a happy, fun romance book. And then January is gonna write kind of more darker books, and then Gus is gonna take January on these little missions. They're kind of like dates though, and he's gonna basically try to spark her creativity to write these darker books. It's more of a deep book than I think I was expecting when I was reading this book. This is literally the book that got me into reading. I just love the way Emily Henry writes her characters. I feel like she makes her characters so multifaceted, and like the romance isn't the only thing going on in the book. I swear that I would go to a little beach town and I would like find Gus and January, as I would like, hey, like I'd see them, like I swear I would see them like sitting out on the porch together being like the happiest couple ever, and I'd like wave as I'm walking by and they'd be like, oh my gosh, hi. That's what I feel. I think that they're real. You can't convince me that they aren't. The last Emily Henry book that I want to talk about, I feel like is a very underrated one. It's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I honestly think that this is my favorite Emily Henry book of all time. I think it takes the cake. This is just one of those cozier books. I feel like honestly these characters are just so easily lovable. That's kind of the vibes of this book. I feel like the way that this book touched on like sister relationships and then like parent relationships and then also just like the romantic relationship, obviously I also like that too, but it was just everything mixed into one. I really appreciated our main character Nora, because I feel like everything that she was going through was so realistic. Personally, I don't think I relate to everything she went through. It felt like she was a real character that I could talk to like in real life. Next up we have Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I believe that I read this for a video with you guys. I think it was the staycation vlog. Book follows Allie, and basically she's dealing with a lot right now, to say the least. She's going through a divorce, she's going through the grief of losing her mother, and then obviously she still has to raise kids and she still has to find out who she is without her husband and without her mother. And basically this book is a romance book, obviously, between Allie and Ethan. I just think that the way that this book dealt with the heavier topics was so interesting to me, because I don't think that the romance was the main plot of this book. I think honestly the romance took a very big backseat. I think that I love this book so much because it felt like a self-discovery journey for Allie, and also Ethan. Something needs to be said about him, okay, because he is everything and more. It's the little things, okay, and Ethan is like, he's the one who does it. Genuinely, I think that Ethan is my favorite like male character in a book. Yeah. Okay, our final romance book that I rated 5 stars is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin, oh my god, I'm gonna butcher this last name, Sigmund Broka. So sorry, I for sure pronounced that wrong. Oh my god. Basically this book is following these two authors. Do you guys see a theme at all? I love reading books about people who love books or are like authors. Basically these two authors wrote a book together in the past and it kind of like went crazy and went viral, and then now kind of have to write another book together even though they don't like each other really at all. But then they end up staying in this beach house together to try to co-write this book, and it's very interesting. I loved it a lot, but I honestly think in hindsight 4 stars. I don't think about this book ever, and I feel like that is my main thing like that I'm looking for if it's a 5-star read. Like it needs to be a book that I think about, and I never think about this book, so I don't think it's a 5 stars anymore. I think it's honestly 4 stars, but I might have to reread it to figure out. I think it needs to sit at a 4 stars now. I don't think it can be at a 5. For them all in all of their glory, okay, honestly take these 2 off the top. These are the books that I actually think are 5-star reads. If you want to read any of these books, please do so. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow with yet another Bookmas upload. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for yet another Bookmas video, okay? It's gonna be fun. I swear, it's gonna be a fun one. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye. Love you.